Welcome back to Coffee Unlimited with J and D. We are going to be talking about when our beliefs start to crack, and this is the last episode of this series. We've had a lot of conversations around cracking beliefs, going through different topics, parenthood, body image, and today we are really excited to talk about career. So this episode is going to be focused on some of the beliefs that we held in terms of career and how they've cracked. So this episode, hopefully you'll enjoy it and you will learn something, as I know I always do. Janelle, I'm so excited to be here with you, and especially, given your recruiting background too, to be having this conversation around career and some of the beliefs that we held. So I'd love to start by just simply asking you, what were some beliefs, long-held beliefs that you had in terms of career?
Oh, thanks for the question. I'm so excited to talk about this because in my own personal life and professional life, I've cracked quite a few beliefs about career. And I would say one of the first beliefs that started to crack was this belief that a career is like a ladder that
Mm,
you progressed upwards. And for any individual, the end goal for your career should be to get as high up the ladder as possible. And I don't know when that belief started. Maybe as a child, I could sense or I saw the importance of people in higher positions of power. Whether it was in school and there was a superintendent and there was a principal and there was teachers. And I I could see the hierarchy in that. And and I could sense the importance of going higher and higher. But in any case, when I embarked on a career, which I would say the most of my career was HR, from an early start, I had this goal to be basically an SVP of HR at Nike because I was at Nike at the time. And I
mhm.
literally would tell people, okay, my goal is to be the SVP of Nike, of HR at Nike. And to me, that seemed like the logical goal to have because that was the highest position. So if I'm going to have a goal, it's to get to the highest position. And I quickly embarked on that. When I first started, I was a recruiter. I immediately started asking, mentors and people in higher positions, whether it was in recruiting or other areas of HR, what did you do to get where you are today? What advice do you have for me? I want to move up and I want to become a manager and then a director and then a VP. I want to be in a leadership position. What can I start doing today? And I was gathering all this information to basically prepare myself to climb this ladder. And I will never forget when that my whole belief system started to crack because I remember where I was sitting at the time and who I was talking to. And this was in 2009. So I'd already been in HR for almost 5 years and had already had a few different roles in HR. And Layla, my oldest, was just born. And that was a punch in the gut and a slap in the face. Just this new experience of being a mother, and the emotions around it, and this new role that I had. And I remember I was back at work. I think Layla was probably a couple months old because, in the US, your paternity and maternity leaves are pretty short. So, Layla was 2 months old. I was back at work and I was sitting with one of my mentors, catching up about life as a mom now. And this was a guy, and he had kids that were in high school and college. He was talking about his own experience navigating a career at Nike and parenthood. And he was talking about the sacrifices he made. So he missed a lot of time with his kids. He missed a lot of important events. He was traveling a lot and he got to very high positions, but he said he had regrets about it. And I was listening to him as a new mom and hearing, the impact on his family as he climbed the Nike corporate ladder. And I thought to myself, I remember sitting there with my coffee thinking, I don't want that to be me. I don't want to miss my kids' activities or, have regrets, when I actually reach this goal. I don't want to have regrets about it and the impact on my family. So I literally felt almost an identity crisis in that moment. I remember thinking, well, what's my goal now for my career? What do I want to do? Or what kind of parent do I want to be? So
Mm-hmm.
my world started tumbling down and I was lost for a while, actually. I remember just feeling lost because I thought, well, if I don't want to be the SVP of HR, because it sounds like that's a tough road for a family life, if I don't want to be that, then what do I want to be?
Mm.
And who am I if I'm not this career person moving up? And so that was, let's say, 2009. So, yeah, 16 years ago or so, 17 years ago. My belief around this career progression, I actually think there is no such thing as a ladder anymore in my belief system. I don't see a ladder for a career. When I picture a career, I don't think of it as a ladder. I think of it as something that you do to fulfill your life, to give you opportunities, to serve society, serve the world. But it's just a piece of who you are. And there are times where you might move uh, up in roles, you might be promoted, you might move laterally, you might move down, and it's all okay
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, it's just something you're doing. It's not who you are. And your career should be simply something that enhances your life. It doesn't define it.
I love that, Janelle. Oh, wow. I'm just grateful that you had a mentor like that too, who had honestly shared that they had regrets, that climbing up to the top came with compromises as a parent.
Yeah,
And yeah,
exactly.
as a new mom, I could
Yeah.
imagine that you were really like, what am I doing with this goal, with this career
Yes.
now?
And I remember I was like, I think I was even sweating as I was sitting there
Mm,
in that coffee shop because the words that he was saying were so powerful and so honest. Like he was being so honest with me. And I, for a minute, I didn't know what to do with the information because it was a complete paradigm shift from what I believed. I saw him as this successful senior level executive that must have had a really great life. And I'm sure he
yeah.
had a lot of great aspects of his
Hmm.
life. I don't want to dismiss his life happiness. But in his own words, he had regrets when it came to his family and his kids.
Yeah.
And so I am very grateful that he shared that
Hmm.
because it would have been easy not to share,
Oh, yeah.
especially as I'm sitting across wide-eyed, sleepy because I'm a new parent.
N-
But, he could have sugarcoated it for sure.
Yeah.
But he was honest with me, and I'm really grateful for that because it allowed me to recalibrate and it allowed me to decide to design my own career that would work within my value system.
And you absolutely did,
I sure did.
right?
If you look at my resume, it's pretty funny. I mean, there's gaps in it, and there's lateral moves. There's a lot of job changes, a lot of company changes, and I laugh thinking about a resume because as an HR professional and someone that's worked in recruiting for quite a bit of time, I've looked at a lot of resumes.
Hmm.
And I remember when I was a recruiter at Nike, my first job, and I was being trained as a recruiter, and that's a whole different experience. I was recruiting sales and sports marketing, and I could get 1,000 applicants a week for one position, and I
Wow.
would have 15 to 20 positions at a time. 1,000 applicants a week for each one. You're talking tens of thousands of resumes.
Hmm.
And so I was trained how to quickly spot resumes that were worth looking closer at and which ones you dismiss quickly. And one of the red flags when reviewing a resume was gaps in the resume.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and this is, 2005. So we've come a long way since then, but I established a belief at that time that a gap in your resume or time in your resume that was unaccounted for was a red flag, and that was a bad sign. And so I remember if I saw, I would quickly scan titles and I would quickly scan what companies and I would scan the dates. And if there was a gap, let's say, one job ended in 1999 and then the next job on the resume started in 2001, that was a red flag. And I would first think to dismiss it. But if there was something on the resume, maybe it was the company they worked for or a role that seemed like it would be a good segue into Nike,
Mm-hmm.
I would spend more time and maybe I would phone interview that person. But I certainly spent time in that phone interview grilling them about the gap in their resume. I mean, you had to explain it. Like if I was going to send a resume to a hiring manager, I needed to be able to explain to the hiring manager why the person had the gap, because that would be one of the
Right.
first questions they had, which is so funny to me now, probably because I myself have gaps in my resume. So it's funny to me now because I completely understand why someone would have gaps. And to be honest, I encourage people to have gaps now as a
Mm-hmm.
professional, as a mentor, as an HR professional. I encourage people to take time off. I think it's good for the person, the individual, to have breaks and to recharge and to find themselves and to recalibrate and to spend time doing things that they love outside of work. And I think that employees are stronger employees when they've had times of breaks,
Mm-hmm.
just because they're not burnt out. Typically they're
Yeah.
not as burnt out as people that have just worked from job to job to job and have worked 20 years straight. So that was I mean, I think we've talked about two beliefs right there. One, that your
Mm-hmm.
career has to be linear, progressive, upwards, and
Yeah.
two, that you can't have gaps in your career. And both of those are just completely shot out of the water for me because I know from firsthand experience, as well as now leading teams and leading individuals, some that have grinded it out for years on end and some that have taken breaks and have a renewed passion and a renewed energy and renewed interests.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big difference in your employee output and effectiveness and also just happiness.
Absolutely. Wow. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that, Janelle.
Hmm.
I
What
think a
about you,
lot of people can
Danielle?
relate to that.
Yeah, what about you, Danielle? What were some beliefs that you had about career that have cracked over time?
I have had such a diverse career when I look at all of the roles. So I didn't have that experience of like going to university, graduating, starting my first job in a corporation, and then moving up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I went from going to college at Cal State University Northridge, majoring in music, and I got my first job when I was actually 18 years old. So it was my first semester at Cal State Northridge, and I got an offer to perform in the musical Cats in Hamburg,
Mm.
Germany. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I wanted to do. This was my goal, to be a musical theater performer. And I thought, okay, let me go to school for music. It was my passion. So I went there for a year thinking I'd come back and continue on, but I ended up staying there for 6 years doing a few other shows too. Spent time in New York, came back to LA, became a waitress again at the restaurant I worked at when I was in high school and part of college. So I'm back there waiting tables. Then I start teaching dance and voice lessons as well. Then I move to be with Scott in Hawaii. I'm going through the classifieds. I'm like, what kind of a job should I do now? Because here we are in Honolulu, there's no professional musical theater.
Mm.
And I saw an ad in the classified saying, looking for a bilingual retail associate for a wedding store, a bridal gown store. I was like, okay, Japanese, English, I'll go there. So I go there. I'm in this job interview. My resume is only musical theater. It's like I did work retail when I was in high school at Foot Locker, but I mean, I don't even think I put that there. But this woman, she said, "You are going to be miserable at this job." And she was similar to me. She was half Japanese. She's like, "First of all, I need somebody who can read Japanese because I can't and you can't either. So we're not going to be able to help each other out here." And she's like, "You'll be miserable in the store, but I have two chapels right on the beach, and I'm actually looking for another Hawaiian wedding singer for our Japanese clientele." So I was like, "Oh, perfect. This is where I feel like, I mean, I feel like the bottom line thing of this story is the message is like just go for something because you never
Mhm.
know what else could happen. Because I wasn't like, oh, wonderful, I want to be a bridal gown salesperson. But I thought, okay, Japanese, English, yeah, I could do that. But I wanted to do something. So I started singing at these weddings. One time we had 13 weddings in a day, back to back.
No,
Yes.
13 in one day.
13 weddings. These chapels were so sweet, right on the beach. And we had to make sure that the brides and the groom, they didn't bump into the other couple, right? Because we want to create this experience. Like you are the
This is
only
your
one
place. Yes.
getting married on Hawaii today, right? Like, so we would like hurry and shuffle them around. And so I did that, taught dance and voice lessons as well there, and then became a mat Pilates instructor. I mean, this is my career all over the place because I thought, well, I mean, lots of dancers become Pilates instructors. Maybe I'll do that. Scott was really into the gym, and I thought this is, a way for me to have a free membership, stay in shape, have a little bit of income. And then I kind of just fell into yoga, where one of the studio managers was like, "Hey, can you teach yoga tonight?" The regular teachers called in sick. And I was like, "Oh, I can't teach yoga." And she's like, "No, no, I really think you're going to be great at this. You take class a lot. I'm sure you'll be fine." And I said, "How about this? You call everybody else, and if they can't, then I'll teach the class." And she's like, "I've called everybody else. You're the last person on my list." So that's like how my journey began in teaching yoga. And then, we moved to Vancouver. I thought I would never break into the yoga scene there because there were so many instructors, but I did. And then I got connected with the founders of the Chopra Yoga Center in Vancouver. They had this vision of opening up the first one in Vancouver and having many across North America. They asked me to be a part of it when I said yes, but I want to be in a management role. At that point, I had been teaching for a while. And so that's, where I got a lot of my education was through working with Deepak and the Chopra Center, attending their events, then teaching at their events, running the studio. I remember I was reporting into the board. So it was this handful of board members who all had other careers, but this was like
Mhm.
their passion project. They're like, we want to bring consciousness to the world. And they were meditators and yogis, but they also had, their business acumen and other enterprises as well. But I just remember thinking, I am such a fish out of water right now because they were like, "Danielle, can you provide the minutes of the meeting for us?" And like, so going from like, just I learned so much in my time working with them. I'm so grateful for the guidance that they showed me too, because a couple of them were CEOs of big organizations, and so I felt like I was getting mentored by them. And so this whole story to say that, yes, I agree with you. Career is not linear or progressive. I never thought that I would be working for a corporation like Lululemon in a leadership role without a college degree. and then to move on to a financial institution and also be in a leadership role, managing big teams, creating lots of programs for, the enterprise-wide global programs. I
Mm-hmm.
just thought that no, you had to go to college, you had to like then start, in a coordinator position, work your way up this progressive ladder. And that belief was just totally cracked.
I love it. I have so many questions. Okay, so first, I just want to acknowledge, I think people that know you or know about your the work you've done, I think would universally say that you've been successful. So you've been in these leadership positions, you've spoken all around the world, you've led these big retreats. I think there's no question that you've been quote unquote successful. I want to go back to the time when after you've dropped out of college and you had all these different jobs. Let's even like pinpoint the time you're in Hawaii and you become a wedding singer and then maybe a Pilates instructor. Was there any point when your mom said anything to you about worrying about your career? Because let's be honest, a lot of times our career beliefs or the career that we enter is influenced by our parents
Mm,
and what they want for us and their fears for us, fears of our future and getting serious and getting that career. And so I'm curious, what did your mom say during this time, or did you get any pressure from her to find a career, quote unquote?
hmm. No, that's such a thoughtful question, Janelle. And I love that you bring in my mom because she was such an advocate for me to be happy. That was
Mm,
even my name, Mika. I mean, it's like me is beautiful, which is from her Japanese Michiko as well, beautiful. And then ka is from my grandmother, meaning happiness. So
mm,
all she wanted was for me to be happy. She was actually the one who saw the ad in the LA Times for the Cats audition. And she's like, hey, they're having an audition tomorrow. Maybe you want to go. And when I got that contract, she was like, oh, you want to go? Like there was not one hesitation from her side saying like, oh, you have to finish college. I mean, this was an opportunity. Who knows if it would have been there 4 years later for me, right?
mm-hmm,
It was just like a once in a lifetime opportunity to say yes to
mm-hmm.
a musical theater job. So even after that, she was like, just wanting me to be happy.
I think this is such a great story or lesson for parents too, because I know as a parent myself, but also being around a lot of parents talking about their kids who are nearing uh, college application time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of discussion about where they're going to go to college, what they're going to major in, and what they're going to do. And a lot of the questions are based in fear, as I mentioned before. And I I love and I think it's so beautiful that your mom focused on happiness
Mm.
because look what it did. Look, I mean, I I don't want to speak for you, but I think you've had a really happy life and a successful career, quote unquote
Mm-hmm.
career. And when you think about how many parents out there probably nag their kids about maybe some of these jobs that they have that in the parents' mind aren't serious jobs, aren't going to lead to a career. What I would say is you don't know. You don't know what the future holds.
Right.
And if you just let your kids say yes to things and see what door opens around the corner and let them be happy and find themselves, you never know in 20, 30 years, they could be in the same end state that you had in mind for them and they found their own way there. Like truly. Or maybe they find their way to a place that you never in your wildest dreams imagined that they would be. And but that is the right place for them. Because as
Mm-hmm.
parents, our minds, our imagination is so limited to our experience of work. But what work will look like in 20 to 30 years is probably going to be completely different. So we don't even know what opportunities are out there. And so I love that. And I love that, your mom, after your first semester in college, said, go for it and do it, because I
Yeah.
don't know that many parents would.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're so lucky that your mom was so supportive and you were able to have these amazing experiences. And I think about how incredible at such a young age, in such formidable years of your life, you spent time overseas and you were abroad and immersed and working with people from different cultures and different countries. I mean, how many people can say that they had that experience? Very few, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, in the whole scheme of things. A lot of people do the traditional go to college, and that's its own experience in itself. And there's no right or wrong way, but I would say you had some really unique experiences. Naked boyfriends we've talked about in the past. Your German
That's
boyfriend
right.
that walked
We
around
did.
naked. Wow. When I was 19, I can't fathom having a boyfriend that walked around naked. But you were there and you were just
Oh
having
my
these
gosh.
experiences.
And I even brought my mom to the naked Schwabenquellen. At first, she was like, oh my gosh. I mean, this is, a first generation Japanese woman. So, born in the 30s, in 1935. And I'm like, okay, mommy, we're going to this place. It's a spa and it's co-ed and you have to be naked. No swimsuit, no swimsuit. And she
Oh
loved
my
it.
goodness. I love it. I and I think to myself, how can I be more like that with my
Mm.
kids and how can I let them find their way, stop projecting my fears onto them, stop projecting my beliefs onto them, and and remember that I don't know what the future holds and I don't know where this path will lead them. And who am I to say that this path is going to take them down a dead end?
Mhm.
Because I think that a lot of parents, they have the best intentions. They have good intentions when they say, oh, that retail job or oh, that whatever, that wedding singer job, that's going to be a
Mhm.
dead end job. They have good intentions when they're saying that, but you don't know that it's dead end because it literally could introduce you to someone or take you on this path or have a flexible schedule that then allows you to work another job as a yoga instructor that then you see, oh my goodness, this is amazing, and if you had a full-time
Absolutely.
job, you wouldn't have had that opportunity. So
Hmm.
I think a lot of these stories that we've shared hopefully sheds light for the people listening that we can't predict the future. That at the end of the day, I think the goal is happiness. I think the purpose of life is happiness, really.
Hmm.
So when it comes to career, whether it's your own career or your children's career or your brother's or sister's career, and you have an opinion about it, just stop yourself and
Keep it
and
to
ask
yourself.
exactly maybe just like swallow a bit, take a deep breath and just ask them if they're happy or ask them to, encourage them to pursue happiness because I don't think you can go
Absolutely.
wrong if you guide them towards that.
I think so. I think so.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like we could do a spin-off on a lot of these topics, and I think we've just scratched the surface, but hopefully for those listening, anyone listening, I hope that it's opened your eyes, or maybe you resonated with it. Maybe you've had similar experiences, and it's okay to recognize that society and our families have established these beliefs within us and have created these beliefs within us about our career that has no merit to it. At the end of
Hmm.
the day, it's not, there is no one way to have a career, and that a career can look many different ways. So if you enjoyed this episode, I hope you subscribe because Danielle and I, we come on every week, we pick a topic, and they are unfiltered conversations, and no topic is off limits. So if you've enjoyed this, we hope that you'll listen again. We drop an episode every Wednesday. You can also find us on Instagram, Coffee Unlimited with J and D, and we will see you next week.